Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Card text is hella confusing. The more you look at it, the more it looks like spaghetti code. And just when you solve problem-solving card text, bam, they changed it again. Hey guys, this is Tombox, and today we look at how some people are skewing the most basic rules in the modern meta. We're going to be looking at 4 cards today, and these are some of the most requested cards that you guys wanted me to answer, so I'm throwing it to you guys. And you know the basic saying of you do as much as you can. Well, let's just say some people take that a little too far. Yeah, and totally did not follow the rules of meeting the conjunction rules. And you know what? Let's not get into the details now. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell. At the end of the day, I just hope that you guys don't get screwed by people messing with the rules. Let's take a look at Malice in the Mirror. This is the most requested card from the previous video in the comment section, so I'm going to answer it here today. What are some things people are doing with this card? In fact, even I experienced it at locals once. So I'm going to talk about it here today. So what are some of the things people are doing? Well, they're attempting to do as much as they can when they can't banish the Malice card. Yeah, that's a pretty big problem. But I can see how that's a beginner's mistake. They claim that the banish effect is a cost, so they force their effect to go through. Oh, okay, that one, I think someone's just straight up trying to cheat you at this point, because they're clearly not going by the procedure of how the cards work, and there's a semicolon to kind of help dictate what is the effect and what is the cost. And then attempting to target face-up cards and not monsters for the negation, turning the card into an omni-negate. That is actually one that I personally experienced until I picked up the card and read. I'm like, you can't negate my spell card with this card. Yeah, that's just not how it works. Yeah, that's something that we got to be very careful of when someone tries to mess with the wording or target improper cards. So let's take a look at the actual card wording, and it states you get to target one face-up monster your opponent controls, semicolon, banish one Malice monster from your hand or face-up field, and if you do, negate that monster's effect until the end of the turn. So yeah, it only negates monster effects. And if this card is banished, that's the condition, and that's the trigger condition. You can target one Malice card in your graveyard, semicolon. So yeah, the targeting is part of the activation. The banishing is part of the resolution. Banish it, and if you do, that's the conjunction. Add one Malice card of the same type monster spell trap from the deck to your hand. So the first part is probably where I experienced the, hey, they tried to hit one of my spell cards and tried to negate it, and then get the Malice monster effect to go with it too. I think that at the time when it occurred, I didn't actually have a monster on the field, so they want to negate the spell and also want to generate the additional Malice monster. And essentially that did not work out for them, and so this is a quick and easy, and just read the card, but just keep in mind where all the semicolons are, because the semicolons are there to kind of help determine how you resolve effects and how you play the card itself. Like, oh, semicolon, you do all of that, that's during activation. Anything after that, that's on resolution. Now for the second one, the banish it part is the one that I've seen some like newer players pushing it as like a cost. And so they're guaranteed to add like a monster, a spell, or a trap from their deck to their hand. And I think that banishing part was one of the more crucial parts, because say you ash the card, but they still manage to get that banish, the illegal banish. Well, that means likely if they try to hit a monster like a Dormouse or a White Rabbit, they're going to get that additional summon that should not have occurred. And you know how it is with Malice decks. If they get 1 or 2 effects off, they have full combo on you, and you're likely looking at a full OTK. So that's why these particular mistakes matter, and you have to catch them as soon as they can, because they do snowball like out of control really, really quickly. So this is how you kind of read the card. This is very basic. All right, so we got the basics out of the way. Let's look into the next card. Card number 2, Songs of the Dominator. Okay, so the question you guys are asking is, can you chain a hand trap to this card? You're the person who's activating Songs of the Dominator. Can you chain a hand trap to this card? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. And let me just read the card for context sake, and I'll see if I can try to explain it to you guys. But it is part of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Card text when it comes to how this card is worded. I kind of wish everything was in one sentence, but here we go. Now, if you have no monsters in your graveyard, you can activate this card from your hand. So legitimately, this is a hand trap, much like Infinite Impermanence and the Dominus cards. Now, when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, that is the activation condition, negate that effect. Then, if you have a trap card in your graveyard, you can add one Dominus card from your deck to your hand. Legitimately, you can always ash this card because it states that you can add a Dominus card from your deck to your hand, so you can prevent your negation with that. That's also pretty useful. I'm not seeing a lot of people using this card at the moment, but it's still a pretty cool card. Now, if you activate this card from your hand, you cannot activate the effects of monsters in your hand, graveyard, and banishment until the end of the next turn. Now, that was separated into its own isolated sentence, and that's probably where all the confusion is stemming from. And as for the rest of the text, you can only activate one Songs of the Dominators per turn. Okay, what makes this card difficult to interpret for newer players and older players is the fact that there's a period separating the activated action on resolution and the lingering effect that goes with it. The lingering effect being the part where if you activate this card from your hand, you cannot activate the effects of monsters from your hand, graveyard, and banishment until the end of your next turn. But until that part resolves, you can still technically activate monsters from the hand, graveyard, or banishment, because it's a lingering effect. And we've been seeing more and more of these lingering style effects from newer cards. And one card that we can definitely relate to is SP Little Knight. When that card came out, there was always the question, if I already attack directly, can I still get the summon trigger banish effect from SP Little Knight? Will that still occur in main phase 2? And the answer was, yeah, you can still get it, because even though it's worded as, so your monsters cannot attack directly this turn, it was not stated as a condition. Therefore, you can still do it, and this one's kind of similar. And one of the weird telltale signs that this card is acting more like a linger effect is the word if you activated this card. This is not like a guaranteed interpretation. This is just something that if you're confused about it, ask a judge. And in fact, if anything, always ask your head judge about how it's going to be ruled at a tournament. But regardless, that's kind of the one of the telltale signs. For me personally, I know I shouldn't say this, but the wording of until the end of the next one isn't really commonly used within, say, the context of a condition, like an activation condition. It's very uncommon to see that. I don't think I've actually seen one before. Leave it down in the comment section if you have seen a card with specifically a condition of activation which would lock you out of a certain thing until the end of the next turn. Well, let me know if that even exists. But in any case, this whole thing would have been a lot easier to interpret if it just used the word, comma also. Then we wouldn't even be having this conversation, to be honest. This is a non-issue for the most part. But because it got separated, that's where the confusion stemmed from, especially for older players as well, because that's what we're adapted to. Now, what are people doing incorrectly with this card? Well, they are claiming that, hey, this card has a condition, therefore you can't chain a hand trap like Ash Blossom if you want to follow with a different hand trap that people are building a chain on top of this card. And then there's another weird one. This one actually kind of came up, and they kind of reference but the wiki guide said that you can use infinite impermanence to get the dominant search. So on turn 1, if you chain this card to infinite impermanence, you will get the dominus card. That is incorrect. If you have nothing in the graveyard, you have no trap in the graveyard, let's just say on the resolution of this card, you won't get anything, even if you chain infinite impermanence, because cards don't hit the graveyard after each chain is resolved. Cards only hit the graveyard after the entire chain has resolved, and then you move all the cards to their correct locations unless there is an effect that would have moved them during resolution. So yeah, if you chain this card to infinite impermanence, you go infinite impermanence first, and then you go chain Songs of the Dominator on your opponent chaining to you. You don't get the dominance card because Songs of the Dominator, it checks it. There's no trap card in the graveyard, therefore then it resolves infinite impermanence and there's nothing. See, it doesn't matter. You're not getting the card, unless somehow you can toss a trap card into the graveyard before the chain resolves. Okay, but that's why that card can always still be ashed. On the other hand, you know how people claim that this card isn't a condition. It is a lingering effect, therefore you can chain a card like Mulcharmy Fuelos. The problem with that is Mulcharmy Fuelos requires you to control no cards. The moment you activate this card from your hand, you now control a card, so you can't use a Mulcharmy. Alright, Yeah, just because one thing doesn't apply doesn't mean the other thing doesn't apply, okay? The conditions of Mulcharmy Full still applies. And this is why I'm saying, like, a lot of the more modern Yu-Gi-Oh cards is starting to look like spaghetti code all over again, even though they try to fix it with problem-solving card text. Ruling number 3, Eclipse Twins. Okay, so what happens when, say, one of your 2 targets of Eclipse Twins gets banished? Well, the answer is quite simple. You get nothing. You don't get any of the summons. So what are the incorrect claims of this card? So players have been attempting to summon one of the 2 targets of Eclipse Twins. They're claiming, hey, you do as much as you can. Since, we already met the activation, we just do as much as you can. So this is a very big misuse of the do as much as you can, because essentially they're claiming it disregards conjunction rules, which it doesn't. You still have to apply conjunction rules. So what do we mean by that? So I'm going to skip directly to the part of the text that matters. Now, if this card is sent to the graveyard, target 2 other rank 4 Xyz monsters in your graveyard, special summon one of them and attach the other as its material. If you want to look at the highlighted version, the pink here, if this card is sent to the graveyard, that's the trigger condition. And then there is, you can target 2 other rank 4 or lower Xyz monster in your graveyard. That's part of the activation. And finally, to break it down, special summon one of them, and that is the conjunction. And because you have to do both or you get none, attach the other as material. So if you can summon one but you can't attach a material, you don't summon. If you can only attach a material but you don't have a summon, then you get neither. Well, it doesn't even make sense. But essentially that and forces both parts to occur. A is summon one of them, B attach the material. If you can't do both, you get neither. Anyone trying to do this, I think they are a little bit sketch, but it depends on how new they are at the game. If they're super new, I would say, hey, they probably just didn't know the rules. But if they've been doing this for a very long time and claim to be an expert, then I would believe that they are the expert, and that's actually worse, because that means it seems like they might be even trying to intentionally do it because, oh, they're the expert. They can't lose face by losing the game. And therefore, sometimes these weird things happen. Well, I would say if you see it happen, call it out. Question number 4. What happens if you tribute Ami no Murakumo with a cost like Mitsurugi Prayers, and then the opponent chains like a Bestial Druid from targeting your Ami no Murakumo? If the chain resolves, Ami gets banished, and then the prayer resolves, adds a Mitsurugi monster to hand. Will the Ami no Murakumo, activate in the next chain? Well, that's a pretty good question. I think we can just read the card text to kind of define it. Like, if this card is tributed, you can add 1 Mitsurugi card from your deck to your hand, except for Ami no Murakumo no Mitsurugi. Then you can special summon this card. Note, this card does not care about where it ends up, but the game state still cares. So the answer is no, the Ami no Murakumo will not activate. It's like, but Tom, it doesn't care about where it lands, so whether it be graveyard or banished, wouldn't it just be able to activate anyway? Well, although the trigger only requires the card to be tributed, where it ends up technically still does matter when it comes to the game state. The game still cares about it, because if a trigger was met in the graveyard and then it was removed from that location before the new chain starts, which is why specifically it was Mitsurugi Prayers tributing it as a cost, which allowed for the timing for Bestial Druid to target it to remove it before a new chain starts, which means this card did not actually activate yet, and it was already removed from the location where it triggered. It will not trigger. I guess this has been made to be a common example. I think it's like an overarching rule that now is applied into TCG, but it was like a master rule change that did occur, because I believe in the past it was different. In the past, 100% it was different, because there was a difference between regions, OCG versus TCG, Europe versus NA. There was like a big discrepancy where, oh, someone activates Mystical Space Typhoon targeting your Call to Haunted. You chain Call to Haunted, summon out your Stratos. Does Stratos get its search? Because, Stratos gets summoned, it gets destroyed because Call to Haunted gets destroyed. Does Stratos get its search? In the past, it probably did at some point, but nowadays, no, it does not, because it's not recognized in the new chain anymore, because the thing that was triggered is no longer there. It's easiest interpretation. Or if you play Drytron, the easiest way is it's the same ruling as Cyber Angel Ben 10. Literally the same ruling. Does Cyber Angel Ben 10 get to activate if you send it to the graveyard with a Drytron effect, and then somehow it gets hit by like a DD Crow or an Ally of Justice Cycle Reader? The answer is no. And time for the bonus question, and shoutouts to the N-Man and Gallantron for being my consultants on this video. Yeah, major props to you guys for helping with the rulings that happen all the time. So, here's the bonus question. Fusion Deployment. Is Fusion Deployment one of the cards that have a lingering effect, or is it a condition? Based on how it's read, reveal one monster in your extract and special summon from your hand or deck one fusion material whose name is mentioned on that monster. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters the turn you activate this card. Is this a condition, or is it a lingering effect that applies afterwards? And if you guys answered this is a condition, you would be correct. But then you might be also asking, oh, but then why does the card use also to conjoin it? I don't know. Is it an actual also? I don't even think it is. It's just weird that it's using also to kind of conjoin these particular words together, because that's not an effect. That is a literal condition, because the word, the turn you activate this card, it's not even activated this card. It's not past tense. It's just the regular one. So yeah, I think this is one of those moments where you say, go figure. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! When you have it figured out, it unfigures it out for you. And we've reached the end of another chapter of how to not get screwed by bad rulings. Okay, well, hopefully your questions got answered, your problems are solved, everything in life is good. If it is so, hit that like button. It really means a lot to me, and it means even more if you guys would hit that subscribe button. And by the way, check out MSTmerch.com. MSTmerch.com is now live again, and everything has been shipped previously. So yeah, we dealt with new procedures that we have to do. And yeah, so anyone that is asking about their shipment, I've put in this video. Yeah, your shipment has been put out already. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for your support, and more things to come. Well, I'll see you all in the next one.